Hey, hello, hi everyone. Good morning. I thought I would do something different and this time try to give you a brief explanation to some of the podcasts that I've been putting out there on my site lately, because there's a lot of things happening, a lot of interesting news that kind of going over a lot of people's heads. So I've been taking a lot of time to put things together to be able to present them to you in a way that's concise, that is as honest and as truthful as possible, and to help you to try to make better sense of your world, because this world is topsy-turvy crazy, and I know it might be frustrating for many people to get by with their day-to-day. So to help sort out all the mess in your heads, in your lives, I thought we start with what's most important, and that's being thankful for being alive, right? Because a lot of people aren't. Whether things are good or bad, it doesn't matter. Just the fact that you're breathing air, and that you're able to think, and you're able to make changes in your life, just by changing your thoughts, is a beautiful day. It's a good day to start. So, Passover or Easter, what's the big deal? Well, as you know, it's that time of year. It's the Easter season, the Passover season, and I'm pretty sure you've noticed at some point that you wonder, well, what's all the hubbub? How come we have a different day for Easter and a different day for Passover? Example here, we see that this coming Saturday, March 27th, begins Passover, right? It's the first night of Passover. But not long after, a week later, okay, well, you have Easter that pretty much ends on the day that ends for Passover, right? It just happens to be like that this year. It changes from year to year. I'll explain why in a little bit. But this is all confusing because, you've got to figure that, the people that, created the stories about Passover and Easter are pretty much from the same country, right? Same land, same people, right? The point I'm getting at is why do we have a different day for Easter? Why do we have a different day for Passover? And worst of all, the Orthodox Christians, that is, why they have a special Easter for them. So what's so special? Who's right? Well, I did a video with my buddy Paul. So we collaborated on a project, Logos Videos. And one of our videos actually has an explanation for Passover and Easter, which I will put a link in my description later on for you guys to take a look at. But here's the thing. Was Jesus Christian or Jewish? I bet you he was Jewish, right? So if he was Jewish, he was going to follow Jewish customs. Not Christian heathen customs, Jewish customs, right? So let's stick to that because that's where it's important to focus on. Now, okay, I have over here. It came to my attention just yesterday, and this is why I'm doing this because I've been trying to prepare how I'm going to put things out there to trying to help people sort things out, and ideally, I figured, well, let me do something for Easter time, Passover time, and sure enough, something came into my lap, and it's from the Old Testament, and it's from one of the old minor prophets, Zephaniah, and I'm not going to read to you the whole text, the chapter, but in particular, the very first chapter, 1, talks about, it shall come to pass in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that I will punish the princes and the king's children and all such as are clothed with strange apparel. Now, that sounds kind of harsh, but we have to remember we're talking about a Lord's sacrifice. So what is that Lord's sacrifice? Well, here I'm using a website, and there's also an app for iPhone and for your Android, Blue Letter Bible, and it's a really great app and site because it allows you to basically the same thing you do in Google when you're doing searching, it can give you very fine detailed searches with that as well. And lo and behold, all I did was I just typed in Lord's sacrifice over here, and what it came up with was 3 results, and all of them are very meaningful, and I'll explain why. Because in the Old Testament, right, we're talking about the Lord's sacrifice, but it doesn't talk about what that sacrifice is in particular. It just says, okay, well, what is a sacrifice? What is the Lord's sacrifice? Well, the nice thing about the Bible is that it always gives you a concordance. It always gives you a cross-reference to most verses or situations that are mentioned, especially when it's dealing with prophecy. And people who don't understand what prophecy is, it's basically history that's written in advance. And if you don't believe in that, well, I'm sorry. Well, get up to speed, because the world we live in, as according to scientists, has been proven to show that quantum reality exists, and that you can expect, well, I won't say spooky things to happen at a distance, which they do, but the long of it is that you have to believe what's written, right? Because it's just the natural way of doing things. Sure, you can believe what the lawyer tells you, or a judge, or some stupid idiot down the street, but when you're talking about history that has been proven over and over again to be true, with artifacts that we can find anywhere in the earth that talk about certain stories in the Bible, in particular Noah's Ark, right? We've found the Ark, right? It's there. It's in Armenia. It's sitting nice and pretty, waiting to be explained how something made of iron, and yes, iron in pre-Stone Age times, according to scientists, how is that possible that it's sitting where it is and it's still well preserved? More on that in a little bit. But first, let me go back to the Old Testament part with the Lord's sacrifice. Here in Exodus, which is the story of the Exodus from Egypt, out of slavery and all that, Pharaoh and pyramids and yada yada yada. So it says that ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover. So, right there we know that the Lord's sacrifice is the Passover. Okay? And for Christians, you know that Jesus Christ is our Passover sacrifice for us, right? The Jews have a tradition of sacrificing a lamb and all these things they got to do and rituals, right, to honor the Mosaic law. Okay, well, God's law for His Passover. But as Christians, right, we were given the free will choice to choose, Jesus Christ paid that price for us, so let us show our thanks. And this is what this coming weekend is actually about for certain Christians in the community, right? So let me go back again, because I think you missed something very important here. It'll come to pass in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that it will punish the princes, etc., meaning that, something's about to go down on the day of the Lord's sacrifice, which means that some kind of calamity has to happen on one of the Passover days. And to date, since the Jews have been keeping track, I do not recall of a tragic event happening on Passover, which is the 14th of Nisan, other than that sorcerer that they crucified back almost 2,000 years ago. How do we know this? Well, I'm glad you asked. It so happens that if you type in Sanhedrin and sorcerer, because that is how he's identified in the Talmud, right here in Wikipedia it says Sanhedrin 43a relates to trial and execution of a sorcerer named Jesus and his 5 disciples. Okay, the sorcerer is stoned and hanged on a tree. So if you go into it, you can read the Wikipedia about it, but I prefer to go look at some of the different manuscripts that had the different descriptions of that day, right, on the 14th of Nisan, and we have the year. The year was 3790, and I'll get back to you on how we know that. Because, I don't think people go through all this trouble to make up a lie. Okay, and if you read through it, it pretty much says all the references relates to the trial and execution of a sorcerer. So if I go here and click on the reference here, it's going to, oh wait, 77, where did he go? Over here, Sanhedrin 43 online, Babylonian Talmud, okay, goes ahead and it talks about what they have to do and what they did. This implies only immediately before the execution, but not previous thereto. In contradiction to this, it was taught on the eve of Passover, Yeshua was hanged, and it goes on. So okay, so we know what happened. We have the year, okay, because there's an explanation that there had to be there were two specific Sabbaths on that. There was a high holiday, so it wasn't a Good Friday deal to Sunday. It was really on Wednesday to Saturday evening, But the bottom line here is, hang on. Zephaniah, another Old Testament minor prophet, stated that, "Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, saith the Lord of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones." Okay, so kind of vague a little bit. But then, in the book of Matthew and Mark, Jesus himself goes on to say, "Then saith Jesus unto them, all ye," or all of you, the people who he's talking to that night, which were his disciples on the eve of Passover, "shall be offended because of me this night, for it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad." Okay, so what happened? So the eve of Passover, he sat down with his buddies, ate bread, drank wine, got betrayed, got led off into the night, and was executed the next day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's a story on that. But there's something in particular that he said. Zechariah, smite the shepherd. Okay, so where is this leading to? This means that we know the night he was perished. Hosea is another minor prophet. And all these guys, all these prophets, what were they prophesying? What were they talking about? Who they were talking to? Essentially, they were trying to help the nation of Israel get its act together. Because, like today, they've gone off the deep end and have been adopting practices that have nothing or little to do with the reality of the world that they live in. Okay, the person who created it, the persons, all three of them, that were responsible for creating this world, have given specific directions and instructions on how to maintain and care for this place. And it's not being done. So, the first set of guys, those fallen angels, they didn't do the job, so they got fired. And they're really pissed off, so, they went and, tormented humanity until humanity can get confused about what its real purpose and role is in life. Because that's what it's about. Well, that's what it's about, right? Every day you wake up and you have a purpose for life. Well, Hosea had a purpose, and his purpose was to warn the nations at the time of the impending carrying away into Assyria and into Babylon subsequently because of disbelief and rebellion. So, Hosea, the first 3 verses in chapter 6 talk about the restoration. "Come, and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He is smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days he will revive us. In the 3rd day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight." And verse 3, "Then shall we know if we follow on to know the Lord. His going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth." And this little part here in Verse 4, O Ephraim, what shall I do unto thee? O Judah, what shall I do unto thee? For your goodness is as a morning cloud, and as the early dew, it goeth away. Right? So that good nature that you're supposed to have is not such a good nature after all. But that's okay. That's part of the plan. And you can see that after 2 days, you'll be revived. So is it 2 literal days or is it 2 prophetic days? Well, we certainly know it can't be 2 days because 2 days have gone by and the third day has come by and there's no Lord. Okay, so let's add another order of magnitude. Instead of 2 days, 20 days? 20 days, that's a long time ago this prophecy is given. And 20 days since, nothing happened. How about 20 years? 2 days? Because you see there's a thing in prophecy where you have a year, a year for a day, day for a year. This goes on to basically illustrate that these days are years. In fact, they're thousands of years, because we know that days and weeks and months have gone by and nothing has happened. So what's next? Decades. 2 decades have gone by. 200 decades. Well, I think it's about time, right? How do we know? We have a calendar, right? That's how we tell time. That's how we can tell the days of holidays, right? So, for example, going back from last year, we can tell when all the main Jewish holidays took place. In this case here, Passover was April 9th and 10th. This year, it happens to be, where is it? Yeah, here it is, March 28th, 29th. And then you see how it changes from year to year. Here in blue is the Jewish year, 5780, 5781, 82. Okay, so they've been counting back. So, here we go. Where is it here? Peshach. See? So what's interesting is somewhere in here, on one of these dates, you have to have Zephaniah's prophecy come true. Because it has to happen on a Passover, because it has yet to happen. But why did I want to bring in Hosea's prophecy in the 2,000 years? Because, let me show you here. Hang on a second. Gotta call you back. Okay. Sorry. Had to call my son. Well, my son called me, so I'm going to call him back. Yeah, date converter. Look at this. 14, Nisan, 3790. Okay, we got a date. I'm going to give you the link to our video or a text if it's too long for you to go research it for yourself. Right now, I really don't feel like going to talk about how we got up to that date and everything. It's already been written and calculated, but the bottom line is this. If Hosea's prophecy talks about 2,000 years required for time to pass, and on the beginning of the 3,000 year, or as it, not the beginning of the 3,000, but after 2,000 years have expired, that they will live with the Lord and be in His sight. See, add 2,000 to this year, what do you get? 2030, right? You add 2,000 to this year, you get 5790. So we have 14th of Nisan, Passover, where on the 17th of April, which happens to be an important date for a particular member of my extended family, so they get a nice surprise, right? In the year 2030. So you figure, oh, that's only 9 years away, nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Yes, lots to worry about, because you see, there's something called Let me see if I have it here. Yeah. Jacob's troubles. See, and the Jacob's troubles has to deal. See here, Jacob. So you have, if I zoom in here, can I go up some? Yeah. So you have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and you have their sons, which represent the tribes, right? And you say, okay, well, what does that have to do with me? Well, you have part of that tribe. You have the Levi and Judah, which and Benjamin, which became the house of Judah, right? House of Judah, remember? And then you have here Ephraim, Manasseh, house of Israel, right? These are the guys to the north, right? These are the guys to the south. King David, and Solomon. Jesus came from this line here. And these guys, who are these guys? Well, when they got carried away into Assyria and Babylon, see, 604 BC, 536 BC, and then the last one was in 70 AD when the Romans came and wiped out and cleaned out Jerusalem and scattered the rest of the Jews about and abroad, everywhere. It's not just these guys, right? The guys that you usually see eating, matzah on Passover, right? It's these guys too. And who are these guys? Well, look at that. It's the descendants, right, of the United States, Americans, and the British Commonwealth. Yes. Yes, indeed. So if you think that, because I'm from England, or my background is from Ireland, or Australia, or whatever it is, I speak English, or sprechen Sie Deutsch, or whatever it is, German, no matter, you're all mixed with the same family background as these guys, right? Do your history, and you'll see that between the British and Germans and a whole bunch of other people, basically anything that's Indo-European as a language falls into this category. So this means you. This means whatever troubles these guys get, you get too. That means that if these guys don't do their job cleaning up their act for everybody else, same thing for you. See, that's why the British Commonwealth and the United States were given powers and responsibility was to help clean up the act of the world. And because they're not doing that, well, Jesus himself, he's going to come back and take care of it. And as a matter of fact, he's promised that he's going to have helpers, which are people who actually understand what's going on to help clean up the act. Right? Because this is actually your inheritance. I've been trying to explain this to people. What's the whole deal with Passover and Easter and why you got to pay any type of attention to celebrating a holiday? Well, you don't own this land, okay? Yeah, you were put here like everybody else. If you want to go along with the notion that you evolved from monkeys and that you were here for millions and millions of years, well, go ahead and believe that, right? And you're just going to lose out. At this point, I really don't care no more. I know, because, you've had a whole year of COVID to be off on your ass, out of work or whatever, doing nothing and collecting money and spending all your time on the phone, all your time in front of a computer, text, chat, whatever it is, all sorts of nonsense. And then when these holidays like Christmas come along or Easter come along, it's all about, let me buy and spend. Let me buy and spend. Presents, parties, candy, chocolate. You know it's coming. You know it's coming, and you know I'm not lying. You guys are already preparing what you got to do for the little ones for Easter. What's that going to do for them when, in a few short years, they're going to find themselves on the short end of a stick because they never took the time to read? Okay, if you're going to go through the trouble to put your children through the trouble of adopting certain customs and rituals and stuff, at least take the time to educate yourself. Because there's coming a time very, very soon where you'll be wishing you had paid more attention to things that people are talking about, like me. I've talked about, 25 minutes now. I'm going to probably chat for another 5 to keep this under 30. But the whole point is we have to open our eyes and pay attention to, well, pay attention to what we're doing. Okay, so let me get back to this 5790 thing again. You take away 7 years from that, because there has to be a 7-year tribulation, and that ends up in the year 5783. Okay? Take away 7 years here, that ends up in the year 2023. What year is it now? 2021. Ask yourself now, how long does it take to have somebody change their way of thinking? Right? A day, an hour, 2, a while. I don't know. I've been trying to help people understand very basic things for years now, and it just goes in one ear and out the other, because for them, figure, who cares? Why waste my time? Well, if you want to waste time, that's on you, really. But I don't know. 5783 is coming up, and April 6th, 7th. I don't know. There has to be a rapture. That's what I'm getting to, is that there's going to be a taken away where those who have come to understanding, and there are a few of you, I'm proud and pleased to say that there's several in my immediate family and my adoptive family that have seen the light. One in particular has seen the light, more so than all the others, and on that is what has motivated me, or I should say, to give me the desire, I guess, to try to share this, as much of this as I can, to you guys in a more personal way. Because, numbers are there, and prophecies don't lie, because they all come true. I mean, that's the way it is. Oh, Noah's Ark. If you don't believe me when I'm telling you about Noah's Ark, Ararat. Hang on. Let's take a look at Mount Ararat. This is part of, hang on. I know it's on the eastern slope. It's somewhere, see, now my eyes are bad. So I'm gonna have to type it in myself. Oh yeah. There it is. Does this thing have that 3D view thing? Can I do that? No, it's not a piece of rock cropping or whatever you want to call it. It's the actual ark. You can tell just how it kind of slid down from off the top of the mountain here. It slid down this way. There's a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube. I put them on my site as well, in my podcast, that actually show you more details about the underground scans that they found. Yeah, like, totally remarkable. It's there. That's it, right? So what does this all mean? Well, that means that history, our humanity, had to be rebooted here after the flood. How do we know there was a flood? Let me show you a few little interesting things. Now, they want to tell you that all of this took millions of years to separate, right? Between the Americas and Africa, right? You see this big split here? The Mid-Atlantic Ridge? Okay, they're telling you that at the pace that your fingernails grow, that's how long it took for these continents to push apart. and form the mountain ranges that we have here on the west coast of South America and North America and all that. Okay, let me show you something. Let me show you something from the continental shelf. Totally missing all the deposit, the sedimentary deposit that's there in that basin. Okay, look here. This is Washington State. Okay, see that? Portland, Salem. Okay, we're in Washington State. Mount St. Helens not too far away. Okay, you see this? Whatever this river is, okay, you see that's where it goes through land. You see this part here? This is the beach. Okay, or whatever you want to call it, Ruby Island, Sand Island. Okay, if we go closer, that's beach. And as you go off, right? Okay, you see all that? That's a canyon, the Astoria Canyon. You know how these are formed, right? This is formed from water running off, right? So you got to think for a second. Over here on the west coast of the States is what? High mountains, right? The Rockies. This indicates that at some point you had to have water running off, right? Down off the coast, down the mountains, and then into the Pacific Ocean, and then down through this crater ridge. And you can find these things all over, where you see, like here, in Vancouver Island, same thing. Okay, you can follow the trail. You can see where the water ran off. Now, it ran off, okay, when the water covered all the earth, because you didn't have no high mountains like Everest at that time. Highest mountain peaks were what you had here in the Appalachians. But the weight of the water and the forces of the continental, the seafloor bed rising in certain places and spreading and subducting and all these different things happened in days and weeks, not millions of years. Okay, you don't see millions of years of runoff from these canyons. You don't see that. You don't see that at all, right? This is fresh. All this is fresh runoff from the huge glaciers that used to cover all of North America. All down here used to be glacier, one big sheet of ice. So water runoff this way towards the west, towards the Pacific, towards the east. I mean, look at all this. You see it. You see the floodplains. This is a whole big basin, right? It's the southern U.S., Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, all that. Flood basin. Water poured off through here and ended up here in the Gulf of Mexico and brought in the sea. That's why you have rich oil deposits and shale deposits all here in the Gulf. It's from all the plant debris, all the animal debris that accumulated. That's why you have, Dinosaur Park, huge deposits of dinosaur bones all through here, where these dinosaurs, yes, dinosaurs were around at the time of the flood. As a matter of fact, there were dinosaurs in Noah's Ark as well. And just a little thought, they didn't bring the adults because, as you know, when an adult goes through trauma, he don't feel like doing nothing after, right? He just wants to relax, leave me alone. He won't even want to reproduce. Forget it. But the young, young can go through all sorts of trauma and still be able to reproduce. And that's why you were able to fit all those animals on the ark, right? You were able to do that because they were small. They were babies. And dinosaurs, see the eggs, right? They were small. How do we know the dinosaurs were around? We have evidence of human footprints and bones mixed with dinosaurs in the same rock layers that you would find, millions of year dinosaur bones that they're talking about. So all this I hope to be able to end with right now is to say, please pay more attention to what you read and how you think, because it's going to come to you one day where you will be judged on how you handle your information, because life will always go on, whether you're alive enjoying the life or you're alive feeling the pain, right? it's going to come down to that sooner or later, and I'll be able to tell you more about that in another podcast. But for now, just be prepared and just know that things will be happening rather quickly, and I just want to try to avoid as many people as I care about to have to go through this. Right? I'll put the links up, and it's up to you to decide what you do with it. But for now, take it easy.